Hello and welcome to episode number 207, where I'm speaking with Divya Alter about cooking with intention. We talk about the subtle and vibrational aspects of cooking, setting intention in your kitchen, and conscious selection of your ingredients. Also, we talk about some Sattvic cooking methods, so please stay tuned. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, which is the ancient healing tradition from India. I will also discuss topics like yoga, which is the sister science of Ayurveda, and various topics under the umbrella of holistic health and planetary health, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature and to Mother Nature. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. And if you like the content, please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast so the new episodes will automatically download for you. Also, you may want to check out my private Elements community, which is away from social media. It's a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, to support each other, and to continue the conversation from the podcast episodes. Check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab. And I hope to connect with you there. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. This episode is sponsored by Kerala Ayurveda Academy. Are you inspired by the Vedic traditions and curious to deepen your study? Kerala Ayurveda Academy is a full-spectrum Ayurvedic company with deep roots in India, offering education, wellness, and herbal products. You can study online or in person and train in the birthplace of the ancient traditions, Kerala, India, where thousands of medicinal spices grow wild in the mountains. As a beginner, you can choose from 2 certification programs, the 300-hour Holistic Ayurvedic Coach certification and a 600-hour Ayurvedic Health Counselor certification. Kerala Academy is thrilled to now offer the counselor certification in a format for European students. Additional workshops and online series are all designed to support students and professionals to upskill, so you can receive an authentic training in Ayurvedic health sciences. To learn more, visit keralaayurveda.us. That's keralaayurveda.us. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome back our regular guest, Divya Alter, who is a certified nutritional consultant, educator, and co-founder of Bhagavat Life, the only Ayurvedic culinary school in Manhattan. She and her husband Prentiss also own Divyas Kitchen, a very popular Ayurvedic restaurant in Manhattan. And Divya is the author of What to Eat for How You Feel, the new Ayurvedic Kitchen. And there's also another new book on the way in production, right, Divya? Welcome to the podcast.
Yes. Hi, Colette. Thank you so much for having me, and welcome everybody who is listening to us today. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Colette.
Oh, it's always lovely to have you on the podcast, Divya. So give us a little sneak peek into the new book. It's in production. We were talking before we hit record. You mentioned you had some deadlines to meet.
Yeah, so the deadline was I had to review the first pass of the design.
Ah, very good. Exciting.
It's so beautiful. It's really amazing how I wrote the manuscript on a Word document, and then to see this manifest into an actual book, the way it's laid out with the fonts and the colors and the sidebars and the photography and all that. It's just so magical. I'm so grateful.
Oh, that's wonderful. It must be a lovely process as well to watch you go through the various steps.
Yes.
It's like your baby is growing up and moving along.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't wait to see it take birth and share it with the world.
So do you have an approximate date of when that could happen?
The release is scheduled for the fall of 2022.
Great.
And but you should be able to pre-order it probably in spring. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, keep us updated on that. That's great, exciting. Okay, so today, actually, Divya, you were saying that you would like to discuss the subtle and vibrational aspects of food and cooking, which I love. And in particular, this has come up a lot right now with me because I have a group going through the seasonal Digestive Reset Cleanse, and we're talking about before the cleanse, setting an intention for the cleanse and the importance of intention setting. And then today I was just putting up a post in the private community about, your perspective on cleansing and how you're looking at this week where you're eating certain foods and you have to stick with a certain way of eating, but what's your perspective on that? And so this, I feel, is what you're talking about, Divya, when you say the subtle and vibrational aspects of cooking and eating. Can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of intention setting when you're going to cook?
Yes. Well, it's the whole world there is a vibrational side to the world, right? And there is a physical side to the world. So what I love about Ayurveda is that it's very much a vibrational health science. It really addresses not just the physical aspects of health, but also the subtle vibrational aspects, which gets into the topic of consciousness and how our consciousness and mindset can impact our health. So consciousness is subtle, right?
Yeah.
And then how does this have an impact on our health? And intention is very much related to our state of consciousness. So intention, the practice of setting an intention is very much there in the Vedic practices. It's called sankalpa, but it's not just like a whimsical intention, I'm going to do this and I want this, or by the end of this I'll have this. But it's something, intention has to be really come from your heart. How do you intend to transform? And then intention is fueled, it's fed by determination. So if you don't have determination, you will not be able to stay true to your intention.
Absolutely, yeah. But the intention also sets the framework for that discipline, right?
Yes.
For that determination to see it through.
Yes, exactly. So with cooking, what is your intention of cooking? What is the final, not just physical, but also vibrational result that you seek to achieve? And for me, cooking is a part of my spiritual practice. It's my service to my family and the world. So to me, very often, like, my intention with cooking is to benefit people. Like, who I always pray when I cook food, or at the end we'll speak about blessing the food, but I always pray that, whatever little I try to prepare today, whoever tastes this or whoever contributed to this meal today, may they be blessed.
That's lovely.
May our consciousness be elevated. So that, because see, a lot of people think they set good intentions, but actually some intentions can have very destructive goals. So by clearing our consciousness, and that's also part of, I love it that you do these very intentional, conscious, very guided cleanses, because it's not just cleansing the body, it's also cleansing the mind.
Absolutely.
Right? And then a purified mind means that what are the functions of the mind? The desires we have, the emotions we have, the thoughts we have. So a purified mind, a cleansed mind, mind will have the power to set the best intentions that will not only benefit me if I'm the person setting it, but also benefit everybody else that I come in touch with.
Absolutely. A purified mind also gives you more access to your conscience and for making those right choices.
Yes.
More awareness, right?
Yes. So that's what I love about Ayurveda. It's a very conscious practice. And just like with Ayurveda helps us integrate our spiritual intentions as well as our body, mind, and emotions. So from the spiritual aspect, what do you do to elevate your consciousness, to cleanse, to purify your consciousness? And then with that state of consciousness, then you raise the vibrations in your own being, but also you raise the vibrations in the world. And we so much need that today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Indeed. And it's so true. It's like, what are you doing day in, day out to set these intentions? And this is where we've talked about this a lot, obviously on the podcast, is where not only your food, and which we're going to delve into today about being more intentional about that and the subtle vibrational aspects of cooking, but also your dinacharya, your seasonal cleanses. What you do day in, day out affects obviously your body and mind, and affects your relationship with awareness and your conscience and being able to make the right decisions.
Exactly. Yeah, it helps us be more aligned.
Yeah.
More aligned with who we are.
Yeah.
What we're meant to do in this world, really living our life of purpose.
Yeah.
And then and feeling more aligned with nature.
So true. And it's having that clarity. When you're setting the best intention every day to carry out these self-care practices, to live in accordance with your constitution, it gives you that clarity. And basically, you're not draining energy on aches and pains and other ailments that might be happening if you are imbalanced or aggravated in your doshas. So when you are in balance and you're living in accordance with your constitution and carrying out these intentional self-care practices, dinacharya and so on every day, it just gives you so much clarity. Yeah.
And it takes discipline, Colette.
It does.
It's not easy sometimes, so it takes discipline.
Yeah, but absolutely it does. But I think eventually you get to the point where the reward is so worth it that it's worth the discipline of doing these dinacharya day in, day out, and cooking with intention and so on.
Yeah, you don't have to push yourself.
Exactly.
So that's one of the benefits of regular practice. At the beginning, it's an effort to get up early, to do your cleansing procedures in the morning, and to meditate or whatever else you do. It is an effort. It takes discipline. You have to push yourself a little bit. But then it becomes so much, you really integrate it into your life, and it becomes it really starts to flow for you. So then it becomes effortless.
Exactly. So I'm going to jump in here because here we are talking about these daily self-care practices, these dinacharya, to help keep your body and mind in balance and to be a consistent, solid foundation for your life. And as Divya said, it takes discipline to incorporate these daily self-care practices. And this is why we talk about them all the time, because they are that important. And if you want help, if you're struggling with implementing daily self-care practices, if you want more education around them and more education on what types of dinacharya are best for you and how to live in tune with the circadian rhythms, then you may be interested in my 28-day self-paced Daily Habits for Holistic Health program. This is an online program. Like I said, it's self-paced. And here I explain the importance of the circadian rhythms and living in tune with them. Then I help you implement these daily self-care practices, giving you little ideas about triggers you can put in place to make it easier so that you can be really focused and set a good intention every morning to start your day with these dinacharya. Also, we talk about the mental gunas or qualities and how to maintain positive mental health. We talk about how to become your own healer, and I go into detail talking about the foundation of Ayurvedic healing. And also we talk about how to connect more with your true nature, to tune into your intuition, and to create more sattva or balance in your life. So if you need help, if you're struggling with that discipline for implementing the daily self-care practices and you want more education around how to become your own healer, check out my Daily Habits for a Holistic Health program. The link is in the show notes, or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just go to the programs tab and you'll find all the information there. Okay, so lots of support to help you. No excuses for not having these daily self-care practices in place. And I promise you, they really are the foundation for your life to keep your body and mind in balance, preventing disease and preventing decision fatigue daily on what to do. They're in place, they're set in autopilot, and you just do them and you start the day with a really great self-care practice. Okay, let's get back to my conversation with Divya. So I'd love to talk about setting intention in the kitchen.
Well, this is something very individual, right? But the main, like the way I'll tell you what I do.
Okay, great.
And what works for me. So for me, first of all, the kitchen setting is very important so that it promotes a peaceful mind. Because part of the intention, again, is what is my state of consciousness when I'm entering the kitchen? Am I really anxious or angry and aggravated and distracted? Or am I peaceful and, joyful and
right.
curious to see what happens, like that? So that and the kitchen setting can very much promote that. So cleanliness is the first step in terms of organizing the kitchen in a way that you can maintain it clean. And I have this thing that it's very hard for me to cook in a dirty kitchen. So I can't do it. So if there is even if I don't have time and I go and the sink is full of dishes or the stove is dirty or whatever, I just start cleaning first, and I have to clean first before I start cooking.
Yeah.
And this clean environment really supports higher vibrations.
Sure, absolutely.
And then I always, like with one of my teachers, one of my cooking teachers, Yamuna Devi, she passed away, but she was an amazing person, a very evolved spiritually person, an award-winning chef. She wrote 2 cookbooks, and both of them received the highest awards of highest cookbook awards. And she was just an exceptional person, and she was one of my mentors, cooking mentors. And one of the first, and she was just so accomplished. And when I first went to her kitchen, and I was so eager to help her, I really wanted to help her and learn everything from her. I was like a sponge. And the first thing she asked me to do after I washed my hands was, she said, okay, let's now offer gratitude and respect to our teachers. Because whatever we have learned to do in the kitchen or in anything in life, but whatever we've learned, it's because of them.
Oh,
so
love that.
There is, it's lovely. And it's a famous Vedic mantra that offers respects to the teacher. It starts like this: Om Ajnana Timirandhasya. So, and it goes on more. So she would have me, and this is like immediate shift of consciousness, right? Starting with this attitude of gratitude that I'm here to serve, and I'm so grateful for whatever I've learned that I can now put it to use in service to others.
Oh, beautiful.
So, and I owe it to this day, as soon as even if I start chopping something or turn on the stove, and I would always offer and bring the presence of my teachers, because, when we feel empowered, who is empowering us, right? Yeah,
it's all that energy.
Exactly. So I really feel much more empowered when I bring the presence, when I'm aware of my teachers and have this disposition of gratitude.
That's beautiful. Love it.
So that's usually the beginning of my cooking practice. And I see it really as a practice. It's not just cooking because I have to cook, because we have to eat, and it's just a chore that I really have to do. It's like, for me, I just love learning, and it's like, oh wow, let me see, what can I learn today? Like what's gonna happen? Let me try something new and see what happens. So it's kind of, I like creating and keeping this excitement in the kitchen.
Well, that's lovely. You can hear that curiosity, and it's not getting stale for you. And I love as well that the process of cleaning before, it's also as well taking that time to kind of clean the mind too and prepare yourself for the intention of cooking and in the right energy.
Yeah, it's so funny because I never went to culinary school because I just had a very hard time being around meat, and I just couldn't imagine just being around a space where meat is being cooked, and I didn't want to touch it. So most culinary schools, you have to do that. I mean, almost all of them.
Yeah.
So my cooking journey training started at the Bhakti Yoga Ashram in Bulgaria, which is underground at that time. And I was like, well, okay, so we'll start. And the first thing was washing pots. So I was just helping clean the kitchen.
Okay.
And it's funny because that's exactly what one of the monks told me. He said, by cleaning, just meditate on how you're cleaning your mind. You're scrubbing the black on the bottom of the pot, and you're scrubbing your mind.
Great.
So yes, cleaning can be a meditation in this way. Yeah. Because cleaning is also humbling you. It's very humble activity, right? Yes. You have to humble yourself to do such a menial service. And this humble attitude is also, this is what makes us open and empowered to learn and to let, put the ego aside and just be open to be an instrument.
Yeah, I can imagine that, especially in the kitchen, that as you have this curiosity, that you're not letting your ego lead the way in, oh, I know this recipe, I'm just going to do it as I know it, but rather being open and curious to what changes may occur in the recipe today, or what new inspiration you may get, or how the conditions in the kitchen may change the recipe a little bit, and being open to that.
Yes, exactly. And the ego is another thing that really kind of repelled me from going through the standard culinary education, because there's a lot of ego involved. The chef, knows everything. And yes, chef, and you listen to the chef rather than collaborating and supporting each other and learning from each other.
That's very true. I've worked in many a kitchen in my day. As I was growing up doing waitressing and whatnot, and spent a time as the dishwasher. But yeah, there definitely is a hierarchy in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, which in one sense it's necessary to follow, not orders, but to follow direction. But at the same time, like, this is the kind of environment I try to create at Divyas Kitchen, in our restaurant, is more of a collaboration. So when we're developing a new recipe, I always ask them, what do you think?
Yeah, that's
let's play with the presentation and give feedback to each other. So it's not just didactic. So the same with at home. Like creating this environment, this space, open space of learning. This is what will make you look forward to the next cooking.
It's true, rather than it just being a chore. Again, like we're talking about at the opening, when I was talking to the people doing the group cleanse, it's like, what's your outlook, your perspective on doing this cleanse? So it's your perspective on going into the kitchen and cooking.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. It changes everything.
Yeah. And now, it's, so then the consciousness with which we prepare the food. And I mean, we run in all kinds of circles, but very often you'll hear, yes, the most important ingredient is is love, is the love that you put in the food. And it's true. It may sound like a cliche, but it is the loving disposition, the love and the joy that flows from your heart, comes out of your heart and flows through your arms and your hands that touch the food. So that current, that energy current, can really raise the vibration of the food that you're preparing.
Yeah, so true.
And that's why, you know, when your mom cooked something, or your grandmother, you know, we all have these memories of the amazing bread or the amazing stew, and it never tasted the same when you try to follow the same recipe or whatever. It's again, that's the subtle vibration that's imbued in the food preparation that can really raise the vibration of the food. So the environment in which you prepare the food is so important, because all food and also the cooking process is done by the medium of water, right? Water, we cook in water. Water adds moisture. We need water we cannot digest dry food, and it has to be some kind of water element in it. So, and water carries memory.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
It's in the Vedic tradition that this principle is used in so many ways. You can purify the water by chanting mantras and raise the vibration. Then you sip that water and it purifies your vibration as well. So it's a very subtle science, but so water carries memory. So the environment in which, like what music we're listening to, or what conversation we're having while we're preparing the food, or all this can actually have a subtle imprint in the food that we're preparing.
Absolutely, and I didn't think of that the connection with, of course, we use water in cooking, and I did a whole podcast episode on the importance of water with Dr. Nandan Lele a while back, and I'll link to that in the show notes. But we spent the whole episode just talking about the importance of water, and like you're saying that the water can carry memory and can carry healing, and it takes on the energy of the environment.
Yeah. So just like you're cleaning your kitchen, you also clean the energy in the kitchen, and especially sound has a very powerful cleaning effect. So I like to play like sacred chants or kirtan, or I'm listening to some lecture, something like that, something that elevates my consciousness, something that keeps me, because we all have our down moments, you know, and cooking when you're angry and eating when you're angry, it's really not a good idea.
Yeah, you can really feel it. If you're eating when angry or stressed, it really affects your digestion.
Yes, or if you're anxious and all that, it's not going to bring a lot of good to you. Right. And you know, I have a friend. Once I was mentioning this during a cooking class, and then this lady, we became friends later, and she was like, "Oh, this is so true. My husband and I, we went to the restaurant and we were in such good, you know, it was a date and we were so happy. And then we ate dinner and we started quarreling for no reason afterwards. And then she was like, oh, maybe the cooks might have had a fight or something, because there was no other explanation of why all of a sudden we start arguing for no reason.
Oh my goodness. Was the food being cooked in a tense kitchen environment?
Well, this is very common actually in a lot of professional kitchens, because the executive chef or whoever is in charge, this is not a priority. The environment, especially the subtle environment, is not a priority for them. They don't pay attention about that. They're not trained about that. It doesn't pass their radar. Yeah. They're not aware of it. But again, for more conscious cooking, then paying attention to the subtle vibrations of your environment is just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. So talk to us a little bit more about conscious cooking.
So conscious cooking again comes from being present, right? You're presencing yourself, you're not getting distracted. And then what is the state of your consciousness while you're preparing the food? Are you doing, like, again, what energy you're bringing into the food? And the way for me to practice conscious cooking is to pay attention to every detail. So even if you make, like in a restaurant setting, for example, you make the same recipes over and over every single day, right?
Yes, yeah.
Or maybe if you're cooking at home, you have your recipe repertoire and you're just kind of going through the same recipes that you're used to. And sometimes you can kind of cook on autopilot. So
Right.
you're cooking, but your mind is somewhere else. So to have a more, and that's very Vata aggravating, by the way.
Yes, all that multitasking.
Yeah. So conscious cooking is again to presence yourself to the activity that you're doing in the moment, and then to pay attention to the details. And one of my teachers used to say, where attention flows, love follows.
Very good.
Where attention flows, love follows. So when you pay attention to something or someone, this can be an expression of love.
Beautiful.
So yeah, paying attention to the details, and actually you'll be surprised how much you will learn by when you're washing the kale and you're rubbing to get the dirt out and noticing how many times you have to wash it to get it really clean. And then when you're stemming the kale and when you're chopping it and you smell this fresh smell, it smells like freshly cut grass.
I love that smell.
And when you notice like how it changes when you steam it or when you saute it. So just by paying attention to these things, this is how you can become a great cook, because you're really learning from every single action.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're really, yes, in present moment awareness, that you're really focused on what you're doing. And so we talked about like setting the intention, your perspective on the cooking process. You were saying the importance of cleanliness and the kitchen environment or the energy in which you're cooking. And of course, then we have to talk about the quality of the food, right? The quality of the produce or the ingredients you're using.
Yes. So that's also conscious selection. How do you select the ingredients that you cook and that you put in your body? That's also conscious selection. So if your intention is to cook to maintain good health or to heal something, heal an imbalance or disease, then making that conscious selection. The conscious selection also comes with guidance. You have to know, we have to have some basic knowledge, right?
Right, absolutely.
But yes, and when you have this intention that I will only eat food that supports my health, then you will not, when you go to the grocery store, you will not go in the middle aisles where there's all the packaged chips and crackers and all these packaged, very processed foods, or the frozen sections with all the frozen pizzas and frozen meals. You'll go to the fresh produce section.
Right.
And you will select wholesome, fresh ingredients.
Or even better, your farmer's market.
Farmer's market, yes. That's or even better, if you have a garden, you go pick it up.
Even better again. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm choosing where you shop is really important, and ideally the most local, the most seasonal the produce, the better.
Yes.
And the cheaper for you, keeping your carbon footprint down, being environmentally conscious, as well as cooking with consciousness.
Yeah, and you meet the farmers, and you know what excites me the most when I go and I buy something with roots, like a root vegetable, or sometimes you can buy cilantro with the roots.
Yes.
And you can see the dark soil that this plant grew in. And I'm like, oh, wow, look at this soil. And it still smells like fresh soil. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just covered it recently in a Q&A podcast about the importance, of course, and I'm always harping on about this, the importance of supporting your local farmers. But this is the type of farming methods that we need, those farmers who are doing regenerative farming, allowing the soil to rest and really taking care of the soil health rather than this industrial farming and monocrops that are harming the soil. So these small local farmers are the ones that are keeping our good quality food supply going, and they're the ones we really need to support.
Yeah, exactly. And you bring actually a really important point, Colette, because part of practicing conscious cooking is to also be aware of the history of the ingredient or the product that you're using in your kitchen.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like we have this exercise during our Ayurvedic nutrition and culinary training, which is like an Ayurvedic chef's training that we teach. And one of the exercises we do is to write a little essay tracing the history of an ingredient.
Oh.
So let's say you go and buy, like you're buying a piece of ginger.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and you have to do a little research to learn about the history of this ingredient. But then you say, okay, so, and we like to do it in a fun way. So you speak as if you're the ginger, and you would say, I am ginger, and I come from this type of land. I grow in I require a lot of moisture in the soil to grow properly, and I'm considered a rhizome, and like things like that. And when you trace back where this ingredient came from, or if you want to trace the history of peanut butter, for example,
right,
and how it was first peanuts were sown into the soil and who did that and how they grew to a plant and then harvested the peanuts and then shelled them and then took them to a storage facility, and then how they were processed and manufactured to turn into peanut butter, and how they were packaged and then transported and then put on the shelf, and the person who arranged them on the shelf, and then the person. I mean, it's such a long chain.
It is such a long chain. And then, the appreciation for that. I always think that the more we have to work with our vegetables, like you were talking about washing the kale or washing the clay off the roots or shelling beans, the more we can incorporate ourselves in those processes, the more appreciation we have. Even more so if we're picking it from our own garden. We have much more appreciation than just buying a bag of something from the supermarket.
Yes, exactly. And that appreciation, this is how we raise our consciousness.
Yeah.
This is how we practice conscious living and thoughtful, conscious cooking.
Yeah.
And the other aspect for me is so I believe in God, and to me, cooking is also my service to God. So when and part of me is also when I cook, or basically whenever I try to do anything, I try to seek to feel that connection with the divine energy. So I always pray that I'm cooking for the pleasure of the divine. I'm not just cooking for my own pleasure. Lovely. So that's my own practice, but and it's there in every spiritual practice. You can see it's expressed in so many different ways. I'm not just cooking for myself. I'm cooking for higher pleasure. And when we connect with the higher pleasure, then we develop we call the higher taste.
Exactly.
The higher taste for high quality conscious living, high quality food. And this is the best way, the most sustainable way, not to go back to these very low vibrational energy processed foods that's not made by people, it's made by machines.
Yeah, absolutely. And all this makes a difference.
Yeah, I love feeling, and sometimes sometimes especially when you come up with some great idea for a recipe or a technique or something like that, to me, that's divine inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're in the moment. So you're not distracted by other things. When you're in the present moment and cooking, that's when the inspiration comes in, right?
Yeah, and you feel that what you're creating is beyond your own ability.
Yeah,
that you're an instrument to channel higher energy.
And I love, I can just hear your excitement for cooking. Obviously, you've been, how many years have you been cooking now professionally?
Well, I mean, on and off, because I started 30, how many years ago, Colette? 32 years ago.
Wow. And you still have this excitement and curiosity. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, my excitement especially comes when I have the opportunity to share it with people, because again, I see that, especially with Ayurvedic cooking, it really helps people.
Mm-hmm.
It really benefits people when they eat this way, that the food that they can lovingly prepare and easily digest, that to fully, truly nourish the body and mind, and have healthy energy to do good things in the world. So that's what really excites me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And so, like I said, after 3 decades plus of professional cooking, that you still have this excitement and curiosity is fantastic. I can feel it.
Thank you.
I'm just thinking that, wow, Divya's Kitchen, it must be just on fire with good vibrations.
Oh, well, we try. We have moments, but we try to keep it that way. And I always tell my crew is like, if you feel angry or something, let's just take it outside and let's talk about it and see what the problem is, and don't bring this into the kitchen. So I try to keep my crew happy.
Yeah, that's the consciousness we need, which is amazing. And the end result is really good, high vibrational food, which is fantastic. What I want to talk to you about now, Divya, is the types of cooking, right? So there are certain types of cooking that would be more in alignment with conscious cooking. Is that right?
Yeah, you mean like cooking methods?
Yes, thank you. Yes, cooking methods.
Yeah, well, again, I would use the word Sattvic, which means Sattvic is the energy that promotes health and balance in the body. Mm. So there are different methods and types of cooking that create different energy in the body and change the qualities of the food in different ways. Mm. So the best cooking methods are something that doesn't denature the food very much. Mm-hmm. So, for example, sautéing or steaming or boiling or roasting at lower temperature, or I love braising in the oven. Oh, it's so good. So these are like stewing. Stewing is like slower cooking method. So these are cooking methods that help protect the prana, which is again the vibration, the energetic vibration in the food. And the kind of cooking methods that we avoid are anything that's charring, anything that makes the food black.
Yes.
Barbecuing, also very fast cooking, because like pressure cooking or like searing in the way that burns the food very quickly, that creates it changes the molecular structure in the food and makes it much harder to digest. I avoid deep frying also. If you deep fry in fresh cultured ghee, and you have strong liver, you have a good liver and gallbladder, then you can enjoy a little bit of deep fried food for festivals or for special occasions. Right. But most deep fried food is fried in canola oil or other vegetable oils, and they refry. They don't throw. You have to throw out the oil or the fat you fried in after each cooking. You have to throw it out.
Which most people don't.
Most people don't, and they just reuse it several times. And this is what makes it trans fat. It's really, really bad for your health and your arteries and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to clarify, you mentioned pressure cooking there. So that's not the most Sattvic form of cooking method?
Yeah, and I mentioned this in my book. I asked my teacher, Vaidya Mishra, he's an exceptional cook, an exceptional Ayurvedic doctor, and asked him about pressure cooking, and he approved it back in the day, and he said, yeah, occasionally you can use it especially for cooking lentils or beans, just to speed up the cooking. It's better, like you would say, if you're really in a hurry and you don't have time to cook, and it's better to pressure cook your food than to eat leftovers. That would be easier for you to digest. But in general, when you pressure cook, it breaks down the molecules of the food much faster, which makes it harder for our stomach to digest. Right. So slow cooking is much better. So people, I had this discussion with our Ayurvedic culinary training group yesterday, and there was like, what about the Instant Pot?
That was about to come up next. Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, well, again, you don't have to use it for pressure cooking. I have an Instant Pot. I use it to keep my food warm. I use the keep warm section. Yeah. I use it to make yogurt, or sometimes I would use it as a slow cooker. Or there was a period when we were renovating the kitchen and I didn't have a kitchen, so I used the pressure cooker, but I would use the saute function or the rice cooking function. You don't have to pressurize it.
Yes, that's true.
Notice, I don't know if you use pressure cooker, Colette, but
no, I don't actually.
I just notice if I'm talking to our listeners, if you eat pressure cooked food, even if it was freshly prepared, notice that you may feel more bloating and gas in your digestive tract. That's how I always feel. If I ate pressure cooked food, it gives me this reaction.
Okay, that's good information. And then stir frying.
Stir frying is good. Yeah,
okay, that's okay.
Stir fry is usually done at very high heat, and you have to move the vegetables very quickly in the wok.
Yeah.
But I lower the heat, so I stir fry at medium-high heat.
Okay, so nothing that's going to char or anything like you said.
No. So you have to do it right. That's a skill that you have to learn.
Yeah.
But stir frying is also good.
Okay, I have one more question on the latest fad, which is air fryers.
Ooh. I've never used an air fryer in my life.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about them. I don't have one or I haven't seen one, but I've heard that, they were all the rage during COVID, I guess.
Yeah, well, I know, again, because it's a convenience tool, right? I've never been attracted to an air fryer. Again, you have to, don't just look at how fast and what the ultimate result is. Yeah. Look at how it changes the food, the qualities of the food.
Yeah, it's so true. We're trying to speed up everything in our world. We're already on supersonic speed with everything else. And it's kind of a little bit sad that we're trying to speed up our cooking as well.
Yeah. That's why my husband loves this. He would say, we're part of the slow food movement.
Yeah. It's so true. I was out with friends the other night. We were talking about the agri-tourism business in Italy, which is just near where I am now. I'm in France and it's just across the border. And we love supporting those places because it's all about that, the agricultural tourism, and you're eating what they produce on the farm. And it's all about slow cooking, slow eating, slow the pace down. It's great.
Yeah, and feel totally in line with nature, feel connected with nature. That's one of my dreams, by the way. I would love to go on a trip like that.
That is amazing, these agri-tourism spots in Italy. They really have a big organization that supports that. So you'll have to come this way.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to do that.
So is there other things that you want to discuss in particular?
Well, one final point, and this is always the final part in my own cooking, is I like to invoke blessing of the food.
Yeah.
And I really, like, this is something I look forward to. And you have to know, like, if you want to know a secret about me and my cooking practice is I never taste the food when I'm cooking it.
You never
taste it.
Oh, wow.
Before I invoke the blessing. So I always, so that's how I was trained in the ashram. And also when I lived in India and I was around in temples and things like that, that's part of the Vedic tradition, is to, like, you cook without tasting, which means that You have to be a good cook. Presence in yourself, paying attention to what you're doing, having good recipes helps. But also part of it is that when you don't taste, you activate all your other senses in your intuition. So I know I've been cooking for so long, and now I always like when I'm cooking and I'm like, okay, it's time to add the salt. How much salt? And I get it's almost like a message comes to my mind. It's like, oh, 1.5 teaspoons, and I put a 1.5 teaspoons. But this is one way to really develop your intuition during cooking, and not just depend on your tongue. But at the end of cooking, so the idea is to invite God to enjoy the food before you enjoy it.
Oh, yes.
So that's part of the Vedic spiritual practices. And you can see this with every temple in India has a kitchen, right?
Yes.
and usually only Brahmins or like highly educated Sattvic people, like priests, they do the cooking, because again, it's a question of consciousness. And then in a very clean environment, they always wear clean clothes, and they bathe before they go in the kitchen and all that. And then they cook the food, and then they place it in these large, beautiful trays. They usually like silver or gold or something like that, and they take it to the altar, offer the food to the deities or whatever blessings they want to invoke, and then they take that. So that blessed food is called prasad. You've probably heard this term, prasad.
Yes.
Prasad. So that's the food that's been blessed, and that's and that food is considered free from karma. I'm like, oh wow, karma-free food. Wow, that's cool.
That is very cool.
So that's kind of purification on a spiritual path. And for some people, that's very esoteric, and they're like, yeah, that's too much for me. It's like, that's fine. But the way I do it is I like to chant mantras, and there are different prayers that you can recite. Every spiritual tradition has those prayers. But the intention here, because we keep talking about intention, the intention is to express gratitude.
Yeah.
And it's like, thank you for blessing us with this food. Please empower us to use the energy that we obtain from this prasad, from this special food, to serve you. So when you have this intention, it really elevates your consciousness. Again, you're not putting yourself in the center. You consider yourself a servant, somebody who is here to serve others and to benefit others.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I always encourage people before they eat is to, whatever resonates with them, to say a prayer over their food or to express gratitude, because it also brings you into the moment that, okay, now I'm going to eat and focus on eating. So if you take a moment to not only give gratitude for the food you're about to eat and for those who prepared it, but also it sets the intention for eating. And that I'm going to bring my mind to the present moment and focus on this food. Because as we all know at this stage, if we're distracted while eating, especially if we're stressed or watching news or multitasking and working, it really affects our digestion.
Yeah, exactly. So this element of gratitude, again, it continues the gratitude of receiving the ingredients and feeling grateful. And when you eat with gratitude, that's one way to improve your health tremendously.
Absolutely, because we know if the digestion suffers, this is like the bedrock for a disease according to Ayurveda that leads to the ama. So it is that important. And as well, if you think of how our food makes up our cells and tissues. So what we ingest, how we ingest it, how it's prepared is vitally important for our health and well-being, because it's literally making up our cells and tissues. And it also dictates the health of those cells and tissues.
Yeah, so true. And, sometimes when I don't feel my digestion is kind of off and I'm like, where am I not feeling grateful right now?
Right.
And I have a very critical mind, and sometimes I'll taste, especially if I taste somebody else's cooking.
Okay.
I mean, I'm critical to my own cooking, very much so. But I would taste it, and it's like, it's not enough salt, or not enough this or that, or it's too much of this or that.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it's okay to notice things for improvement, but again, how can you express this with gratitude and not with criticism?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Well, Divya, thank you so much for bringing up this topic today. I think it's an important topic. And again, creating awareness around setting intentions and the vibrational aspect of cooking and eating, which is so important, especially given our high-paced world today, that we do take time to select good produce, to cook with intention in a good environment, and to eat with gratitude.
You summarized it so beautifully. Thank you, Colette.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure, Divya. And can you tell people more about you, where people can go eat your wonderful high vibrational food at Divya's Kitchen, where that's located, and tell us about your offerings as well. You mentioned the school earlier, so I'd love to get more information on that.
Yes, our restaurant Divyas Kitchen is located in New York City, in the East Village, on First Avenue and First Street.
Easy to remember.
And yes, we open 7 days a week from 12 p.m. until 10 at night. And we have outdoor dining, indoor dining. Would love to, if you guys are in the city, please come visit us. Would love to serve you, meet you. And we also have online shop at divyaskitchen.com. And this is where you can purchase our meal packets, meal products. We have khichdi products, which is the one pot complete protein meal. Very convenient. It's ready in 20 minutes and all the spices and everything is in it. We have soups and sauces and the cultured ghee that we make ourselves by culturing grass-fed heavy cream and churning it. We churn the butter ourselves.
Amazing. I love that you hand process that.
Yeah, so all that. So we have these products just to make Ayurvedic cooking easier to do at home, especially when you're busy. And we also have a school. Our school is Bhagavat Life, bvtlife.com. I believe you can see this in the notes. Yeah. But we right now we're on pause with our public classes. We do a lot of virtual cooking classes. We also have an Ayurvedic culinary training, which we just started a new cohort. We have 46 students.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we already have 20 people on the wait list for the next one. Like, wow.
That's fantastic, Divya.
So it's very gratifying to know that really people are interested in Ayurvedic cooking and really learning how to do it properly at home. So
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes, stay in touch. We're developing a lot more educational products to help you really experience this kind of food and cooking and make it your own practice at home.
Well, you were saying before how that's such a passion of yours is the educational component of this.
Yes, because this is where transformation happens.
Yes.
And that's why, again, raising the vibrations, like you and I would imagine most of our listeners are dedicated to raising the vibrations on this planet. And it starts with raising our own vibrations. And education is a big part of that. Really education helps us develop the awareness of what we need to change, what we need to improve.
Absolutely. And you also have a discount code.
Oh, yes, for our online products, our shop,
Yes.
It's Elements of Ayurveda 15.
Great.
This code is always there for you to use it and try our products, and would love to get your feedback also.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate that discount code. Divya, it's always a pleasure. I always learn so much with you, and I appreciate you taking the time to share this information, and I appreciate everything you're doing in the world, and the passion with which you're doing it is just so fantastic.
Thank you, Colette. I always learn so much from you too, so thank you so much for being in my life.
Oh, thank you, Divya. Okay, until next time, take good care of yourself. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Yes, and thank you to our listeners.
Yes, we appreciate you too.
Soon, yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Ciao for now, Divya. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Divya, and please check out the show notes for the link to Divya's Kitchen, BVT Life, and also that special 15% discount for the Elements of Ayurveda podcast listeners. In the show notes also, you'll find that link to my online services, the Daily Habits for a Holistic Health program, which I talked about earlier, my online consultations, my at-home Digestive Reset Cleanse, which is tailored to you. And if you have questions on my services, just choose a free 15-minute call in my consultations page, and we can hop on Zoom and I can answer any of your questions on my services. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, I'd appreciate it if you would share it with them. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe or follow the podcast so the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.